It's a very interesting debate. Brandon Staley's a very analytical driven coach. We know that he's gone for it on fourth down many instances in even many controversial situations. Even in this game at their own 18 in the second half, he went for it on 4th and 1. It failed, but they also went for it on 4th and 2 early in the game, and they got a touchdown from it. So some have worked, some haven't. Now, they tied the game at the end, as everyone knows. I don't need to go through a recap of the game. And they had an opportunity to go for two and win the game right there, which if we know John Harbaugh's done this multiple times this year
Multiple times.
in big games. And this was obviously a bigger game than this is a win and in game. So the question is, this is the question I'm posing to you guys. I'm going to start with you, Yehuda, okay? Do you think that had the tie scenario, meaning the tie was the same thing as a win for the Chargers, not so for the Raiders, but a tie was the same thing as a win for the Chargers. Had that scenario not been in place, knowing Brandon Staley's analytically driven mind, would he have gone for two in that situation? What do you think?
So Brandon Staley has been getting some flack for his analytics. Some people love him, some people hate him for it. And he made the most questionable one for me was that 4th and 1 on his own 18. That one was a little rough, but I love that he goes for it. And I think that he would have said, okay, I'm putting it all out there. I've been doing this all year. I literally, half an hour before I went for it at my own 18 on 4th and 1. So I guarantee 100% he would have gone for it. If it was a win and in and said, no tie, he would have said, okay, I'm doing everything. This is like the ultimate analytic go for it move right now. And I'm going to go for it too. See if we can win the game, end the Raiders season and vault into the playoffs. So I 100% believe that Brandon Staley would have gone for two. And I was even saying last night, I was like, even though he knew about the tie and, so discussed and so much talk about it, that if they tie, that they could both get in. I even thought that after they scored, I thought they were going to go for two. And Meist knows about that because we had a little wager going about that. But I totally thought they were going to go for two. But if there was no tie, I 100% believe that he would have went for it.
Okay, Meisty, what do you think about that?
I'm going to argue with this one here. I think he would have field goal. His team was playing. His receivers were getting open. The throws just weren't getting there. The pass rush was a little tough to deal with, but they were dealing with it well enough. And I think that even though, we saw it happen in overtime, I think that in overtime because of the tie, but I think that if they both were playing, knowing that if the tie happens, neither of them make it, overtime would have been way different. They both would have been playing way different. They wouldn't have been playing so conservative. So I think that they would have kicked the field goal and gone to overtime, and I think they would have won in overtime had the tie not been involved.
I hear that, but I think they would have gone for two analytically because they would have said we don't want to go to overtime. Our defense is gassed, and even the Rocky said the Raiders were gassed. Also, the Chargers were gassed. I don't think the receivers were making that many plays. They were getting bailed out on these 4th and 10 lucky plays. They even had a penalty to keep a drive going on their final drive, and they were dropping passes and they barely scratching by. So I think Brandon Staley would have said, we need to finish it right here and try to end it.
So I hear both sides, and I've been thinking about this. And I think that there's analytics to both these scenarios, right? Meaning Brandon Staley is essentially, by kicking the field goal, right? If the tie was a factor, let's say, right? So he would be saying, well, we can tie. But the odds of a tie happening are not very high. So if analytics are put into the equation, I still don't know if Brandon Staley wouldn't go for two there. Like the odds of getting 2 yards and winning the game are still much higher, right?
Yeah.
Are still much higher than 10 minutes of nobody scoring, right? Or nobody ending the game with a lead. So I think, and I thought about it, so I'm not sure if it's the case. We'll never know 100%. But I think that Staley, I think he wussed out a little. It was the last game of the season. He generally stays true to what he does, even at their own 18. Even at their own 18, they went for it in that game. But it was the last game of the season. The tie persuaded him a little, but I think the fact that it was the last game of the season also persuaded him over the edge a little more. Had it not been a win and go home game, and there was the same tie scenario, let's say, if somehow that played out, I think he might think about going for 2 there. I just think that because they ran the field goal unit right onto the field, man.
I
They
know.
ran them right on. They didn't even hesitate. Same thing with Kyle Shanahan. The same exact scenario. Tie was just as good as a win for the Niners, and they ran the field goal unit right onto to the field because they knew the tie was true. But had it not been the last game, I don't know. And it was 0 seconds left. That was the last play of the game. That was do or die.
That was
I
do
don't
or die.
know. It was do or die. I can see both sides, but I think Staley might have wussed out a little there. I don't know. This whole season, he's been aggressive, and I love it. I love the aggressiveness. It gets a little too aggressive sometimes.
Yeah.
It's debatable whether it gets a little too aggressive sometimes. We can talk about that at a different time. But yeah. Anyway, I think he might have wussed out a little. A little. I'm
That's the
not
thing.
calling him. I'm not calling him a wuss. He's very aggressive. He's great what he does. It's very
Yeah.
entertaining. But I'm just saying in that situation, maybe it got to him a little. That's all I'm saying.
You don't need to go for it all the time to be true to yourself. Like the fact that he went for it on 4th and 1 from the 18, I think was too aggressive, like we were saying, and I think that was a bad decision and not really worth, maybe the extra 2 or 3 percentage points of, win percentage. But if you want to talk about true to yourself, if there's no tie possibility, true to yourself, analytics, go for it. You have about a 50-50 chance, maybe a little more, of getting those 2 yards and ending the season, rather than going to overtime and playing for some fluky play or some, the Raiders could drive down on you guys because their run defense wasn't very good. Like, I think he definitely would have gone for it and tried, but he knew with the back pocket, like Rocky said, he had a tie, so he immediately ran the extra point team on.